Hi, I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I'm going live because I wanted you to be able to ask me anything about eliminating symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress. And because I've been posting a lot about this lately, and I've been writing some posts, I've been going live with some videos, I've been doing some trainings for you. And I'm hoping you're putting it into practice, but if not, maybe there's a reason you're not. Maybe you have some questions, or perhaps you are putting it into practice and you're having questions come up. So I wanted to be here and answer any of those, and wherever you're at in your journey. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and put any questions you have in the comments, and I will go ahead and take those. And yeah, and we'll just do this. Hi, Claudia. So good to see you. Hello. Do you have questions for me? What do we talk about? I have an idea to where I will start, but I'd rather hear from you all first. But we can do this however. So go ahead and post a question, or I'll just start. I'll start talking and go in my own direction. We're deciding to post or not to post a question, or what question is there. A lot of times when I just get started, the questions come out. Oh, good to see you too. Good. And so we can start that way, and whenever you have a question, you can just go ahead and jump in. Okay, last chance. And I know you guys are a little bit behind me in Facebook, like internet land, so I do want to hold space for that as well. But Claudia's commenting and they're coming through. So I think that you are going to just gather your thoughts. Okay, ask away in the questions and I will answer you. But I had someone reach out to me about hand washing. They have obsessive compulsive disorder, and they are washing their hands compulsively and longer than what they want. I don't think that they're doing it enough that it's causing health problems like injury to their hands, or it's taking up so much time, but it's enough that it's they don't want to they're having to compulsively wash their hands, and so they wondered if my system would work for this, and I'm like, yes. And so, but as I went back and forth in email, I thought I'd love to be able to make this clear, more clear. And I think that many of us, under the influence of anxiety, really have some compulsions that we just have to do. Like, for instance, we have to ask our partner, "How do I look? Have I gained any weight? Do I look thinner? Do I look okay?" Or sometimes we have to ask our doctors, "Am I okay? Am I all right?" We have under compulsion, we have to seek out reassurance or approval, or do you still love me? I know people have told me that they're asking that question compulsively, and they're annoying themselves and their partners. And it's just compulsions come up, and they something has happened and triggered a survival response that says, I don't know if we're okay. And the brain does that. And it's like, I need you to turn these alarms off. And so you're living your life. You might notice something that, your husband or wife may have said. And all of a sudden you're like, I wonder if they still love me. And you might be fine for a second. And then it kind of, but the survival system is like, where they don't love me anymore, we'll die, right? Because it's not a rational part of the brain. It's a very like life or death, safety, not safety. And so that it starts to press on the alarms to get you to start taking action so that you will survive. And a lot of us can notice that happening, and we're just like, it's fine. We're good. She still loves me. He still loves me. We're fine. But the survival center has not received that message that we're fine yet. And so it still thinks that we're going to die, or that we're going to be abandoned and lost forever, especially if we have histories of abandonment. It hasn't sorted that out yet. So it's not interpreting things properly. And so what it does is it amps up the alarms, the survival alarms. And the purpose of those alarms is to make you just uncomfortable enough that you have to do the thing so that it will receive the message that we're good. And so sometimes people can hold off on that. They're like, okay, you know what? I know I'm just being a little ridiculous here. We're fine. Take some deep breaths and we're fine. And then it's like, you're not listening to me. And it will press more on them. And now your heart's racing and your stomach's in knots. And finally, you have to do the compulsion, which is just like, do you still love me? And your partner's like, yeah, I do. Okay. and and then your survival system says, okay, I heard them. I got some external validation. I'm all right. Okay. And it'll calm until the next time. And if it builds up like that, it builds up like that. And what happens is your brain is so smart that that process is so painful and so frustrating and annoying. And it doesn't, your survival system doesn't like you not responding to its messages like over a long amount of time. And so what your brain learns is that, okay, if they will tell us that they love us, and then it will stop those alarms and then we'll be okay. Right? And so then it starts to make that, it starts the goal. Then your brain is like, okay, so we just need to make that stuff happen faster so that we don't have to go through all that stuff. So how quickly can we get her to go from having the thought to asking the question? And then your brain will reorganize to really make that happen nice and fast. And so pretty soon you don't notice all the little parts that it takes to get up into that situation where you're like, I wonder if they still love me, to doing it. And sometimes that happens faster and faster and faster and faster. And then there you are. Okay, now if you've got a hand washing thing, there's lots of parts in there. There's lots of little pieces. You don't just say, I'm gonna just wash my hands over and over and over and kill it till it feels right. You're looking for some things, and your brain is looking for some things for it to feel right enough for you to okay, for the alarms to turn off, and that is going into a regulated like parasympathetic state where you can like live your life from, and not that fight, flight, freeze, or faint state. Okay, so let's see. So but the thing there is what if we could get the alarms to turn off before you, without having to do the compulsion? Could we get the survival alarms to stop so that you could just relax? Yes, the answer there is yes. Now, the next question is, could we get the alarms not to go off at all? Well, and the answer to that is yes as well. So, and there's a couple of things involved here. Now, I cannot give specific instructions for how to do that. I can give you a broad instruction, which is what I do with my clients. And what I've been doing with you all is I'll give you broad instruction, and you got to put your issue into the instructions and work it out. Because I don't know what is so dangerous. Like, what's so dangerous about not washing your hands? I don't know. For you, it might be this. For somebody else, it might be that. It might be, it might be COVID related. It might be dirt and germs related. It might be that one time you saw somebody dirty and they also got rejected by everybody. We don't know what it is that your brain has interpreted as totally dangerous or unsafe. Right? But your survival center has made that association. And so every time you don't do it right, or you feel that feeling, you have to fulfill the compulsion. Right? So whatever that is in there, we have to get it processed. Right? So let's say it was that you saw somebody dirty, and you saw somebody reject them for being dirty, and your brain made the association that dirty equals abandonment. This literally is how brains work. And as annoying as it is, it's also very brilliant. And so you got to take the good with the bad, and you take the bad and you take it through your brain's healing process, and you make it like accurate, because it's not accurate. Dirty does not equal rejection. It can, but we want flexibility there. We don't want black or white. Like, we don't want yes or no. We don't want right or wrong. Okay, all of those thinkings it takes a lot, right? It takes, I mean, I just did the black and white thing, and I'm like, the truth of the matter is, like, even with people, it takes all the colors, otherwise they wouldn't be here, right? With all of the solutions between what makes safety in relationships, you need everything. You need all of the options. You don't just need one or two. You need all of it. And we want your brain to be able to have access to all of it and not just yes or no. Okay, safe, dangerous. And guess what? That's your survival system really only does those two things. And if you're doing that, if you're doing safe, not safe, I pass, fail, I washed my hands, not right, got to do it again. You're in a survival state. You're working under survival function. And we want you up here where you have choices and options and thinking and executive functioning and creativity and problem solving. This part of your brain creates thriving. And that's where we want you to live from. We don't want you stuck over here. And that's what happens. And we're stuck in the survival dance. And are we safe? Are we not safe? Over and over and over and over again. We're just ping-ponging around. Okay, so what we want to do is, okay, so we've got your brain made the association between dirty and rejection. So now every time your hands are dirty, you're going in and you're just like, and you don't even know why at this point, right? Your brain made the association so long ago. It's just like, we don't even have the whole story anymore. We just know this is happening. Well, we need the story. We need to find the story. We need to find where this went off, and we need to get it into the right part of the brain where transformation happens, where healing happens, and where thinking happens, and where, like, this your survival center is not a part of the brain where it solves problems. You can't solve problems over there. You react. You survive over there. We want that part, but we don't want you, we don't want, that's not, we need this resolved. Okay, your subconscious mind, the problems and challenges you've got going on in your subconscious can't be solved in your subconscious. I don't know how to do that, at least. Anyway, we have to bring that to the front of the brain, where this part is your problem solver. It can resolve anything. Any subconscious survival material can go through that thing, like go through its little, maybe it's got like a washer. It's like one of those old fashioned washing boards. And so it's like scrubbing up the things and all the gunk is coming off, and then it can see it clearly. And then it's just like, oh, we don't need this. Or I like this part over here, but not this part. And now it's putting things together and it's creating solutions that are more flexible for you. And it's not stuck with just yes or no, right or wrong. It says, well, there's so many options here. That's the part of the brain we want all this stuff to come into, so that your brain can really work it through, rewrite new codes. She's the boss lady. I think your inner healer is female. I could be wrong, but when she understands a code, her job is to write the codes, the survival codes and the subconscious codes. If she can't figure out what the problem is, she can't write the code for you. There is no upgrading. There is no freedom. There is no new code. You're stuck. And so that's why, so the story back here is they're dirty, they're rejected. So we want to bring this from the survival part of the brain, maybe even the subconscious part of the brain, get this up here. And you do this very simply. This is so simple, okay, that you might miss it. You might like overthink it. But this is so simple. This part of the function is just really pay attention to the problem. Pay attention to the story. Pay attention. That's it. When you're paying attention, you are engaging your prefrontal healer in its healing technology. Mode of operation. There we go. And so once you're doing that, it's ready to go. But to complete the process, like to get your subconscious mind to let go of it and allow it to come all the way through, I found that you need to talk specifically with your survival system. Okay? And so you got to use some other strategies besides talking, thinking, rationalizing. It doesn't care. That's not its language. It doesn't do that. So you could talk at it all you want, but you're not speaking its language, so it's not going to listen. And it doesn't feel like it even needs to listen. It's got survival stuff to do, so move out of the way, right? Keep talking, whatever, do you. I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to make sure you do that compulsion so that we live. Okay, but when you use an intervention that works with the survival part of the brain, it's like, I don't know, I'm going to make up stories. What happens here? I know is that I help people stop doing these things, right? I'm going to tell you how it works. But what happens is perhaps that we're distracting your survival center. Maybe we are taking that material from the survival center, and we're desensitizing it so that your survival system can't recognize the distress or the survival problem in that thing, and so it lets it move to the front. um, Perhaps that, I mean, there's so many reasons why this works, but whatever happens when you use these interventions, all of a sudden your inner healer gets to bring in all this stuff and gets to pay attention and focus on it, and then while they're doing that, they do all their thing. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you don't even believe that they will get in there and break up that association between danger and dirty. She'll do that. She's like, these don't even belong together. That doesn't even make any sense. So you're dirty and so you're rejected. That doesn't even make sense. She does that. Your inner healer, your thinking center does that. And we want to empower her to do that. And that's why we're paying attention to things. And that's why we're going to use a powerful intervention. That's as simple as I can make this. But what I will tell you is that, let's say there's a hand washing code somewhere in your brain that says you got to repeat this until it's right and enough. Let's just say that's a package in your brain somewhere. We've got to get that whole package into your thinking center. That's the whole goal. That's the game. That's what we're doing. And so, and the thing is that, let's say you're thinking the pathways to move this big chunk program into your thinking center, where it can be taken apart and put back together in a functional way, where you have flexibility and options and creativity and solutions. But let's say those pathways are about this big. And let's say the problem is this big, the whole code, right? We got to break this down into parts, like in little chunks. And then we're going to put it through the healing pathways. The whole code's got to get through. Now, the trick is here that sometimes you only need to put one or two pieces into the code, and she's like, I got this. And she'll pull the rest of it in herself. That's fun. I like that. But sometimes you got to put every single piece in that you can possibly find and get it through the healing pathway so that it lands up in the right part of the brain. And what happens is, after that, you'll notice that the problem, the compulsion, is not as strong. There's no alarms, and you just don't need to do it anymore. And the first 1 to 2 times after you get the whole thing through, you just notice that it's kind of like any other activity. This works with addictions. This works with everything, really. Any symptom of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. Now, obviously, there's some pieces that I'm not sharing with you yet, but I want to, about how to break down the code into small pieces. Okay. And I have started this teaching you how to do that. These are very, very advanced skills. But what I have found is that I teach this to people as they build skills, because it's like asking someone to put a roof on a house before they have a foundation. It's a theory, it's concept. It doesn't make any sense yet. This is how I'm finding things to be. Now, there may be somebody else out in the world that can tell you blah, 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 all those things, but what I found is that I'm very much lay the first foundation, the next foundation, the next, and then the next, right? And so what I will tell you is that as you are looking through a problem, you want to just be aware of it in as many ways as you can. Is there a process involved? Is there a step-by-step involved? Is there what emotions are involved? All of those 3 things just right there are parts of the problem. They're parts of the code. What sensations are going on in my body? Who else thinks like this? Who else doesn't think like this? How is this working for me? How is this not working for me? What are the consequences of this? All of those are parts of this big challenge, right? And so if you can break this down into parts and use your intervention, and I really love thought field therapy, emotional freedom techniques, EMDR, and energy medicine. Those interventions have really been go-tos for me, and really what I'm skilled at doing and teaching. And so those ones, if you're going to do this work with me, I encourage you to get to know those interventions, and we can keep moving on like this. But you just really want to pay attention to it. And while you're paying attention to it, simultaneously, you want to be using an intervention. Okay. And I have people do this 2 hours a day, because we want to go after symptom after symptom. We want to pull up all of the codes in a very systematic way that really gets the work done, and where we don't get lost, because you can go on quite the ride in your brain and forget even what you were even doing. And so that's really what I would recommend. But if you think about this in one project at a time, you can really accomplish a lot of work. So that being said, this is what I want to finish up this, and I'm going to go to the comments. I think you got it. I want to go through and repeat myself, but I think you got it. And you can rewatch this video. So I'm going to read the comments. That is a snippet of how to eliminate compulsions. This is great for compulsive eating, compulsive using of any addictive substances, coffee, cigarettes, hard drugs, because there is a lot of survival stuff involved with those habits. Yeah, and obsessive compulsive stuff. We've got hand washing. We've got, for me, I was laughing because I totally had so many compulsions, and so I was revisiting those in my mind. Anyway, all of those things, this stuff really works well for. And you can see from the outside, when you have an anxiety, when you have like an obsessive compulsive disorder, you can look for obsessions, and you can go into your inner workings, following the symptom all the way in, and look at the program. Why is this happening? And then right along this way, you make changes, and pretty soon on the outside, the whole situation changes from the outside. So I'm constantly in a situation of doing inner work and assessing the outside. What are the symptoms looking like now? Okay. And that will tell you if you're finished with the project or not. A lot of times people say, oh my gosh, it feels so much better. And I'm noticing this. And I'm noticing that I'll do it in these moments, or this is really hard for me. Great. We can take that, what's really hard for you now, and follow that all the way into the coding, and look at the inner, how your subconscious, conscious, and survival systems are coded to produce this, right? Because this is not the production. What produces it is inside, right? And so we go in there, do some work, and then we come back out and assess again. What are we looking at now? How are we doing? Oh my gosh, it's way better. And I'm noticing that I give in over here at this one, and I have to ask the question, or smoke the cigarette, or blah, blah, whatever it is we're working on. And so we'll take that little piece and go back in and look at the coding and pull it through the healing pathways by attention and intervention. And then we come back out and see how it looks now. And we do that until it is resolved. Okay. So I hope that helps understand these things. So sometimes as you're tapping and you're doing your work, you'll come back and you'll notice you're behaving differently, you're doing different things, you have a lot more freedom, but you'll still notice challenges. Take one of those and go back in and do your work. Attention and intervention. Pay attention to it and intervention. Okay. Anyway, going on here, Nicole asks, hi, I appreciate how you show up. Oh, yay. Can I ask about EMDR? Is that used in the 8-week program? Is the program a coaching program or therapy group? Can EMDR be used outside of therapy? Great questions. Okay, yes. So I do teach people how to use EMDR in my 8-week group coaching program. It is a coaching program that I offer people because I am coaching you how to do your healing work. And I find that people do a great job with that. And so that's really how I deliver that. In there, I will teach EMDR. This is what I find. I love EMDR, and but I'm telling you, it is not always the right fit, and it is the least popular intervention for all the people that go through my program, period. In my therapy, when I do this in therapy, I find that people will like using EMDR more just because it's the most popular intervention out there, and their friends are like, "Hey, you should try this EMDR thing," and so they're like, they're like, "I want to do this EMDR thing," which is great. Fine, wonderful. But I find that when I'm introducing people to this work, I will always give them emotional freedom techniques first, just because there are no known side effects. It's easy to learn. I can teach somebody in 3 minutes or less, and we can get busy. And it's as powerful as EMDR, if not more so. And it's quick. It's quicker than EMDR as well. So, and so that's where that's at. And because that's what I teach them in the beginning, a lot of times they will stick with that the whole way through. Now, there are other clients, especially when I get a hunch that, they are really going to love EMDR, I will bring that up to them then, and we'll start using that along the way. EMDR is really easy to self-administer. And when you know how to not run into some of the negative side effects of EMDR, EMDR has some pretty hairy and pretty nasty side effects for the wrong person. And so it's like, for instance, if you talk with people who have had problems with EMDR because it was not the right fit for them, one of the most common backlash problems is that they will end up in a psychiatric unit for an emotional and mental breakdown. True stories. So EMDR therapists are very, very cautious while using EMDR, especially in the beginning, because we want to see how it's tolerated. When you are doing EMDR, when I like using emotional freedom techniques first and thought-filled therapy, I'm really teaching people thought-filled therapy, but they're the same intervention anyway. But I like to teach that one first because it strengthens things. Also, they can build their skills. They can learn how to work with their brain. They can learn how to work with their survival center, their conscious mind, their subconscious mind very well using this intervention. Also, with this intervention, it's like you're in the driver's seat and your brain gets in the passenger seat, or actually I'm in your passenger seat and the brain is in the back seat going for a ride. Okay. And so we have a lot of control over how we're using the interventions. Okay. And so that's a really powerful thing to be able to keep people stable while we're doing this work, because we're going in and doing basically, we're working through the most foundational levels of who you are, what you believe, and what you've experienced. And so being stable is important for this process, because if not, it becomes really wobbly, and that's when there's more setbacks than there are moves forward. And we want there to be we want to constantly be moving forward. And the number one requirement for that is stability. So even though we're going and doing all this deep work, we want to keep it stable. We want to keep it good. We want to be moving at the right pace and doing the right work and really there. Okay. Now, when we do EMDR, what happens is your brain gets in the driver's seat and you get in your passenger seat. I'm in the back seat, and we're like, "Where do you want to go, brain?" And the brain says, "Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this moment. Buckle up, babies." And it will take you wherever it wants to go. And sometimes it wants to go to some of your most traumatic moments in the most painful places that you have. And that amount of pain, driving through that with a car, because you can get there like super fast, like electric speed, because the brain is electrical. And next thing you know, you're in there and you are being bombarded with all the thoughts and feelings of that trauma. And let me tell you, friends, that is not fun. Unless it is fun, okay? And I have seen people like, bring it, let's do this, let's go. And they get in there and they are showered with all of this emotional pain and agony, and they're fine. Now, I'm telling you, that is such a small percent of the people that I'm not even trying to go there. I don't even like that drive. Okay. So what happens is that the brain takes you in there, and then it takes you on this, the intensity of the emotions drop and they rise and they drop and they rise, and you ride this emotional roller coaster while your eyes are moving, which, if you've got a lot of emotional pain, this is not necessarily good for you, because if your level of tolerance is right here and EMDR and your brain are taking you way up here, that is, you don't have a survival network. You can't tolerate that, and your whole system will react, and your survival system will shut this whole process down, and you will suffer. And that is unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. Now, there are times when, so I'm speaking about a very small percentage of people that cannot tolerate EMDR at all, but it's not that small. It's like 10, 15, 20%. So 1 in 4, 1 in 5 will not do well starting off with EMDR, period. So, but if I was only trained in EMDR, we'd be waiting for the brain to, like, okay, can you take the EMDR yet? No? Okay, we'll just wait. Can you take EMDR yet? Oh, no. We'll just keep talking to you and hoping that you're stable, and okay, and sometimes 6 months, 7 months, and I'm not even trying to do that. But there is a time when that window opens that everybody can do EMDR, from what I have observed. And usually you need to be able to tolerate EMDR. You need to be leaning in, like, yes, let's go. And you need to have some skills. Like, if EMDR gets too hot and we're going to eject, we're going to bounce out of here, and we're going to use another strategy, period. Because nobody is going to the hospital on my watch. Okay, so when if there's enough skills for that, and there's enough inner world emotional mental skills built, you really can do a lot with EMDR. And you never have to if you don't want to, because there are other interventions that work really well. Now, I will tell you, I love to use EMDR with clients when they've got their skills built and EMDR is a right match for them. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes EMDR is the right match for people, even though they don't have a ton of skills. Okay. Now, and there's sometimes in there where EMDR, you've got some kind of the symptom, but you can't really see it. It's kind of vague. There's a problem in there, but you don't really know what yet. You can't really grab something to use with any of the other interventions. And so this is a great place to start eye movements with. There's something vague going on there. And a lot of times your brain will be like, I know exactly what that is. And it'll take you right to it. And then you have choices from there. You can keep processing it with EMDR, or you can use a different intervention. Be like, thank you very much, brain. Please jump back in the back seat. I'll take it from here. And you can use a different intervention. So EMDR can be used outside of therapy, and EMDR is being used outside of therapy. And let me tell you some really cool things about EMDR outside of therapeutic uses. So you can self-administer EMDR. Okay, but the other thing is that bilateral stimulation, which is what happens when your eyes are moving back and forth and back and forth. That's one way of the eye movements, is one way of using EMDR. The another way is bilateral stimulation, and that's why you see people doing this. You're doing one, the other, back and forth. This helps your brain like get into an optimal processing state, and it also, I like to think of it as, it just kind of runs over symptoms that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. So what happens is that if it's the right fit for you, and there's also auditory, so you can get little boom, 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 boom in your ear alternating. I thought that was like some sort of medieval torture, but it is, I love it. I would wear those myself whenever I want to. But let's see. So you can take EMDR, you can take that stuff outside of a therapeutic use and just use it for everyday stuff. Like, it's really great for attention deficit disorder. The autistic community is loving them right now, because the people with autism disorders typically have a lot of ADHD, but trauma and lots of stuff that they can't process in a cognitive fashion. And by using talk therapies, which I don't recommend that anyway, but they also have tons of things like overstimulation and things like that, that when their brain when they're experiencing bilateral stimulation, it's helping calm everything out, and they're just doing better. Professionals are wearing devices while giving speeches. It keeps them out of that fight, flight, freeze, or faint mode. And it's just, they're little devices. You can wear them on your wrist or your ankle. There's little ones that have little cords with buzzers, and you can just wear those all day long. And it just helps your brain process. It's kind of like walking is also a form of EMDR. So if you're getting out there and you're doing the left, right walking thing that we do as humans, this is a form of EMDR. This is why people who are runners, they say that this really helps them feel better. Walkers, they feel like this. Your brain after a 20-minute run or walk looks awesome. And it's not in the same pattern that it's doing when you're in symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. So EMDR is fantastic because our bodies are doing it all the time. It's what we're doing during REM sleep, that eye movement, the rapid eye movement sleep. We're doing it when we're walking. We're doing so your brain is getting the messages of, hey, let's function well. Let's not be in a survival state while you're walking, running, or while you're doing any of the bilateral stimulation. And this just makes things better. Now, when you're using it like that in your everyday life, you will notice tons of improvements of lots of things. I will use this with clients that have incredible amounts of procrastination and cannot bring themselves to tap or use any of the other interventions. We're just going to wear the buzzies for a while and see what happens. And they will be able to work through those things and get to higher levels of productivity. Now, the thing with that, if you're using EMDR, like that kind of strategy all day long, you're not necessarily using your attention in a very specific and targeted way, right? And so you tend to get overall health and wellness and feeling better. Not overall health and wellness, but like you start to feel better overall, but we're not necessarily specific, and we're not necessarily eliminating symptoms in a specific and targeted way. And frequently, I don't find that symptoms get eliminated like that. I notice that people feel better and they're in a processing state, and they will be thinking better. And if there's any symptoms that will clear like that, it will clear like that. But I find it's more of a broad wellness technique like that than specific and targeted brain work that eliminates symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, like over and over and over and over again. And that really, you want to have specific and targeted ways to channel your focus, because you want to be able to find symptoms, and then you want to be able to look all the way around symptoms, through symptoms, over symptoms, under symptoms, until your brain has enough time on the symptom to resolve it. Okay, so yes, EMDR can absolutely be used outside of therapy, and I think that that's a good practice for every single human ever. At the right time and at the right place in their healing journey, because we always have stressors. Our brain is always, and stress is part of growth, and anxiety is not necessarily supposed to be a negative thing. It's just supposed to create change, help you create change. And anxiety disorder is because you're not moving into the change process. You're not moving into the healing process. You're just stuck right there at the anxiety place. That's a disorder. Right? But we're constantly going in and out of this all day long, using this whole brain to live our lives. And it's sometimes really nice to support it because we can. So that's some ideas from Rachel. Are there some strategies to stretch our limited belief patterns? Yes. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay. I wanted to see how many questions we had. So I'm having some human issues of the bladder is filling. Sorry, TMI or not. But at some point, nature will call me to go to the bathroom. So, so we'll see what happens when we get there. Okay. Are the strategies to stretch? Okay. Are there strategies to stretch our limited belief patterns? Okay. Yes. Okay. Number one, anything that you pay attention to, your brain can heal and resolve. And let me tell you that since my mom had brain surgery, a brain tumor pulled out, I am thrilled to notice this is how people restore physical function of all kinds, and even like biological problems of cognitive problems. Anyway, I'm enjoying watching the other professionals that work with the brain in different ways that I work with the brain, but they're using the same functions that the brain actually does. So I'm over here having a good time with that. And so far, really great progress with my mom and all of that good stuff. So, okay, anything you can pay attention to, your brain can heal. If you can't pay attention to it, I don't know what you're going to do with that. So that's why I have all these strategies to pay attention to these things in different ways. Because if you can't do it this way, let's try that way. Not this way, this way, this way, this way. And also strategies to get the brain to really, your mind to pull it out for you and really identify it so that you can pay attention to it, and your inner healer can just be like, ooh, look at this thing. That's what we want her to do. She's good at that. But we don't want her playing with pieces of it, and that's all she ever gets, because she will just keep playing with this and drive you absolutely nuts, because that's all she'll do, because she will never finish until she feels like she's finished. You want to talk about obsessive compulsive disorder? Right there in your prefrontal cortex, right? So give her all the material she needs so that she can finish the project she's working on, and then they're done. So with attention, so you want to notice your limiting beliefs, get them out on paper. You want to use your paper because your mind can really you can forget everything, because it's constantly showing you things and constantly like taking things away from your view and from your mind and memory, and putting new things in, and then it'll bring new things up, and it's constantly doing this. And so you want to write this stuff down so it doesn't get away from you. And once you have it written down, you have the power then to say, hey brain, this is what we want to work on. And then your brain will say, ooh, that's what we want to work on, let's do that. And so that really will give you the power. But if you just keep everything in your brain, you're gonna have to wait for your brain to show it to you again, and then you don't get that proactive ability to really work with the brain in the way that you want to, in like a very specific, targeted, and systematic way. So so you want to take a belief and pay attention to it. Now you can keep your attention on it by you really want to use your inner observer during this time. So you want to, and you can also create some change asking questions, like some basic ones. Is this true? Does this feel right? Does this sound right? What if there were more options? Is this the only option? If this were my best friend Trudy, would she think the same thing about this? Okay, and you're creating awareness around this. Now you're also using an intervention, because all of that, we want to pull it all into the prefrontal cortex. We want to bring it all into your thinking center, right into the hands of your inner healer. And what's happening is that by paying attention, you're activating, this is what I think happens. You're activating the part of the brain that will like pull on the neural pathways and gather everything up. It's like, I wonder what else is attached to this, you know? And then it all gathers up in your inner healer thinker, your thinking center, and then everything's there, everything that's associated with it. And when you ask a new question, they say, oh, what about, well, it's over here. Okay, well, I don't know. And then they'll pull that in, right? And so every time you change the question, you're changing the function, and you're pulling in more. Okay, and you want to keep it tapping, because sometimes you're pulling it and the survival center says, hey, you can't have that. It's not going anywhere. And that's when you want to be tapping to get to involve your inner healer, your survival center, to let it happen. Let us grab this, please. Thank you. Okay. So, and when you're doing that, it is really, working with beliefs is really that simple. Now, there are some really great strategies to doing that make it very, very, very simple. But if you don't have the ability to even see where your beliefs are, that's really where you need to start. And just even like everything you're doing, there are always beliefs involved with it. And so take some time and start looking past just everything that you're doing, and find what's underneath this. Where are the beliefs? What beliefs are coming up here? And let me tell you what, there are emotions coming up every single time. There are thoughts coming up every single time. And there are sensations in your body coming up every single time with anything that you're doing. And so it's about learning how to walk through that, find it, and tune in and pull it in, and intervention, attention and intervention. And then what happens with beliefs is that the beliefs we have stored in our subconscious that maybe don't even fit us and that are not functioning well for us, they're in there because they have all this emotional bling on them. They're hot. They're like, ooh, your subconscious mind is like, this is really important. And when when we can pay attention to it, we're pulling it up into the right part of the brain. And then when we're using an intervention, we're taking off the bling, and then it just becomes a thought. And your subconscious mind isn't very thrilled with that. It's like, go ahead, have that. I mean, give it back to me when it's cute again. And your inner healer will work through that. And then, and she'll be like, we don't even need this anymore. This is so old. This doesn't even fit. And she'll get rid of that. And then there's a hole there. And then your inner healer, you walk back and forth and be like, well, what are we going to do now? There's a hole here. We've got to have something here. And then you have options to start feeding it some new beliefs. Like we talked about the other day, I am awesome. And then it's going to start that process of flushing out what's in its way and why you can't be awesome and all the evidence that has that that's not true. And you're going to take each one of those and move them through one at a time. That's how it works. It's just about doing it. You got to do it. Okay. And I think you've got enough right here to do it. And we can keep these conversations going. But what happens there is that pretty soon your brain is really open and looking for new beliefs, and you'll watch it because as you listen to people talk, you'll notice different beliefs that they have, and you'll be like, interesting. Or you'll be finding yourself Googling something, or you'll be listening to podcasts, and you'll be listening, and your brain said, hey, go look at that podcast. But really what's going on in there is it's like, I'm looking for this thing that I'm looking for. And then you'll find it somewhere and be like, ooh, that's a great idea. And then it'll start integrating that belief in your subconscious. There's a lot of ways to do it faster, but that's the process. Oh, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. You appreciate my explanations. Okay. What are my thoughts of ART therapy? I think it would be fabulous if you use an intervention with it. That was good, wasn't that? I think it would be wonderful if you used an intervention with it, like emotional freedom techniques or EMDR or thought-filled therapy and energy medicine. Now, I'll tell you that brain spotting is also on my radar. It sounds like something that would be really helpful to integrate. And so I will be taking that training soon because I'm nosy. And I want to see what's out there, and I want to see what awesome things the brain can do. And so when I have more information on that, I'll let you know. But I suspect that you could do a lot of this work with my brain spotting too. Okay, IFS. Okay, I am a huge IFS fan, and that's internal family systems. Okay, now when I say huge fan, understand that means that I have never taken a training. I have bought their book. If I've taken a step to buy the book, you know that Rachel is like sweating you over here. So, but I have bought the book. I have not read the book, but I have read some things of theirs that made me buy a book, but also that really, this was a couple years ago. It really resonated with me. And I was like, that is brilliant because it's all about parts work. We're working with parts of ourselves. And some of what happens as we're working with ourselves, we feel like it's us. We feel like it's who we are, right? And this anxiety is me, and it's not true. It's not true at all. And that's really hard to get into a place where you have one foot in and one foot out, which is the healing stance. One foot in the symptom and one foot out observing the symptom. This is crucial to being able to heal anything. You got to be able to be in this. And so, but if you think that you are the anxiety symptoms, it means you're 2 feet in. You're not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so internal family systems helps you. I love it. I can't believe, I'm so excited we're talking about this. It helps you define things separately. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, now I want you to know I am not IFS trained, and I'm gonna butcher this for them. They're gonna be like, that's not even how you do it. And I want you to know that what I read about what they do is they enact this stuff out, which is not my personality. Okay, I want you to know I'm never acting. Hold on a second. I need some things. Okay, and I also realized I just told a big fat lie that was totally a subconscious truth that is not actually a truth at all. I said I am never acting, and I act all the time. I act out symptoms for you guys all the time. So, but there is something about the idea of acting on stage by a script that like mortifies my system. And so I am also hearing that I have some survival work to do in there if I would like to get that back or ever do that. But I have never been called to do an IFS training for that reason. It just doesn't quite fit my thing. But now that we're discussing this, I might have stretched it enough that I might actually want to dive in there. But that's why I haven't done it so far. And I couldn't conceptualize from the distance that I was at how I would integrate this into my therapy work. But when I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh, and I started playing with it. I started playing with it with clients, especially like my younger teen clients that I had at the time. I no longer work with younger teen clients because it is a gift to work with that, not younger teen, but like that middle school. It's that brain is like between child and teenager, and you need all the skills. I don't have all the skills, so I have adult skills, and so that's early teen, like mid-teens and up. I'm good, but I started playing around with this with my younger teen clients and my clients of all ages, and it was like instant hit, and it was like they were able to focus on the symptom in a totally different way. And with that we were able to really play with the symptom, look at it from all kinds of angles, and resolve the issues that each parts of them had. Like for instance, one of my clients will say, I really want to go to this party, but some of me feels like it wouldn't be fun. Somebody feels like it really would be fun. Somebody doesn't know if I would be able to make any friends, or how awkward would I be, right? And so they'll tell me this whole story. And based on what we're working with, I know maybe we're working on the part that we're working on their social anxiety. And the big theme that we had been working on was, their not knowing how awkward they would be. And so all of a sudden, just right here, and they're talking to me about this, just popped up. There's a part of them that's concerned about this one party. There's a part of them that feels like they don't know how awkward we would be. Well, we can, using a lot of their work, we can go ahead and tune into that one part, right? And that makes it less all the parts, right? So there's 10 parts up here talking about this meeting, this party that we're going to go to, and everybody has their own different opinions and thoughts. But what if we just take that one part out that has the one that has that challenge with, I don't know how awkward we'll be, and let's tune in there. What's that part look like? How old are they? How are they standing? Can you get a vision of them? Can you get a visual of them? Can you get a feel of them? How do you know that there's this part's in there? And all of a sudden they'll start like, well, we've got this part, like, we know exactly the personality of this part, the feeling of this part, the problem, what their issue is. We'll bring them to the microphone and let them just run their mouths because they never got to speak anyway. No one's listening to them. And the next thing you know, we're tapping and we're moving through it. And that part's like, well, we're actually not that awkward after all. And I think it could actually be safe and resolved. And we'll look, and then we'll put the whole thing back together and look at it again. And next thing you know, there's like the next part wants to talk, like the next issue part of them. That's like the conflict, because this is internal conflict, right? And so we're taking it apart one by one. And this other part is afraid that, I don't remember what all the things were. That's why I write everything down. But we take the next one because they're looking at it and they're like, but the biggest thing is this. And that's the next big piece that needs to be resolved. And which part is that has that issue? Let's get all the information we can about them. because right there, we're just pulling on the neural pathways, right? We're pulling all of that in. And then we're using an intervention in resolving that, helping the brain resolve it. Because that's not our job. The brain does that. But if she doesn't get all the pieces to the puzzle, she can't do it. And our job is to get those pieces to her. So that's what I like about IFS. Okay, somatic experiencing, which is SE. I have not looked into there very much. And what I have is that I think that it is the attention piece that I teach. It is, but it's using the body. It's going into the body, which is incredibly powerful. The body has, like, there's a book titled The Body Keeps the Score. Awesome. Definitely a great read. I've been heavily influenced by that book. But the body really does keep the score. The body holds the memories. The body holds the responses and the reactions. And trauma, anxiety, and depression have to be cleared from the body. And so somatic experiencing really hones into that. And it really guides you into that. And so I think somatic experiencing with an intervention would be phenomenal. Because it's not, if you can't get it through the healing pathways, there's no point bringing it up because you're just going to feel the pain and just be stuck there feeling the pain. And I've seen people really re-traumatized by that. And it's just painful. So pain is what causes all this problem. So the less pain we're experiencing, the better and the faster we will be able to process and eliminate these symptoms. Okay, so somatic experiencing, I think, is fantastic. I am thrilled that therapists are learning how to use this, and I would love to take more trainings from them too, because who knows, what else could I learn? But I think without an intervention that works specifically with the survival center, I don't think that we're going to get as much benefit out of it as we could. So if you have a therapist that's into somatic experiencing and you have some tools, some emotional freedom techniques, or you can do some EMDR on yourself or whatever, you're fine. You can use their skill set to really guide you into stuff and pull stuff out that you can resolve yourself. You can help move through, turn those alarms off and change the way your brain is interacting with all the material that's in there anyway, that you just pulled out. So, and this is really powerful. That's what I think. Those are thoughts from Rachel. Okay. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Haven. Okay. And I'm going to close this thread. I'm going to, okay. Okay. Ty Quick. Okay, so let me tell you, she asked how do you purchase these devices because I procrastinate so much and it gets in the way of my greatness? Yes. Okay. That is like one of the things, that's what I hate the most about anxiety, is that so many great people are just blocked by it. And then you think something's wrong with you, and it's not. Your brain is not functioning properly. And it's blocked, it's backed up, it's got all this stuff going on. And so, yes. Okay. So let me tell you, I'm going to put these companies out there for you. I'm going to tell you who I like the best. This is totally a biased review. Okay. But maybe if I do it like this, they will get their stuff together and handle it. So one is theratapper.com. I love them. I buy from them all the time. They have a new device out that has all three options. The bilateral stimulation, 2 options, bilateral stimulation and the sound ones. Yeah. Okay. So I like that. I like the ones with all the options on there, and they ask you if you're under the supervision of a therapist. Do you, booze? So, there's that. So if your conscience says that, then absolutely talk to your therapist or your doctor, whoever. Okay. No, understand that you could hurt yourself with those devices and that you need to be prepared to deal with that. And I am telling you, purchase that at your own risk and while taking full responsibility for yourself. Okay. I will also tell you that I have that even with my more sensitive clients, they can use the broad application of those devices very well. Very, very, very well. It's just that you don't want to get into specific trauma work with those devices if you don't have the skills for that, please. Okay, so there's that. I started with a company called Touchpoint Solutions. And they have a brilliant little device that you can wear around your wrist. Their stuff, and they come with a they come with, golly, what's that? Wrist devices. No, wristbands. There we go. I call these things thingamawatchies, so that's not helpful to you. So I actually have to look for the real word. They come with wristbands, and they're little squares, and they shake. And you can get there's one that is controlled by your phone, and you get a lot of options with that. And there's a simple one that's just small, slow, medium, and fast. The faster, and you have to find the right pace for you. I like tapping that's like bzz, 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 but that will drive people nuts who do not like that. I have one client who's like, it's like blah, and then you wait a year, and then it says blah, and then you wait a whole new, oh my gosh, I would just go nuts. So and there's all kinds of things. I've had clients during sessions, they're like, I need to turn this up, because I give people full control of the buzzies. And they're like, I turn this up, like if they're going through a tough part, and I'm like, I don't know what they're doing over there, but their brains know what they need to do, and so they're doing it. And if you're listening to yourself, you'll find it. And I like a good, nice pull, like a bump, like a vibration, but it's pretty vigorous. And then, but I'd have some clients that really need it low. And so you get to do all this stuff, right? And I want you to know that in my office, I've had clients make all the vibrator jokes. So feel free to do that yourself. That can be a fun pastime. But these are things you can put in your pockets. The ones with the TheraTappers, you can. Okay, and so, but you need to find the right one for your brain, the right speed, the right intensity, and when I do the sound ones, it has to be super, super low. Super low. So otherwise I don't like that. So the Touchpoint Solutions, those ones are wireless. You have to charge them. They last for about 4 hours. That's annoying when you're going through a lot and you need some assistance. They're also louder than, you don't get to control the volume of them. And I have had them, when I first had them, I was working for the state, and I was having people trial them for me, and I forgot somebody had them, and I kept hearing this noise, and I was like, what is that sound? I want to smash it. And so that was really helpful for me to get an understanding of how the environment may respond to those sounds. And because with Touchpoint Solutions, they're fantastically like creative devices, but you don't get those options. And mine broke from them like within the first week. My other ones did not, but the ones I bought recently, I don't know what they're doing. So that's what's going on there. I don't recommend that, but I am keeping my eye out for them because I'm cheering for them, Anyway, but that's some of the places you can look for those devices. And I think that there are probably more companies coming out with them, and they're being more durable. So that's that. So good luck with all of that. And yes, and a lot of this stuff is what I talk about in my 8-week small group program for women who are ready to dive in and take a fine comb through their inner world, find and eliminate the symptoms wherever they are, and really get free from anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so if that's something that you want to do in a journey you want to go on with me, feel free to send me a private message, and we'll talk about it. I'll ask you a couple questions and see if it's the right fit for you. If so, we'll get you started right away. Okay? Have a great one, and I will see you in the future. I've got some topics to talk about this week. So I will talk with you later. Bye.